Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This has been one of the most requested videos, and given that I've had absolutely no time free, um, I felt inspired to do it today. Also, I thought why not try a little bit of a different approach with this video. I wanted this video to be both advice plus actionable insights, and I wanted it to feel like it's coming from an elder sibling, someone who's actually been able to give you an objective point of view. So yeah, I hope I can do that. Let's just quickly get into it. The reason why I'm making this video is that I wish I, in some way, had this video for when I was deciding. Of course, I had different factors. I had two of my friends going to Flame before I came here, so it really helped. But regardless of that, I think a lot of people often don't have the access or the understanding of how the process is, what tips work, what tips don't. Also, this is obviously in no affiliation with Flame itself, but these are all tips that I used, and these are all tips that I implemented when I was applying. So, yeah. Okay. Step one is obviously the entire process. Let's talk about that. Um, Application basics. I'm sure everybody already knows that you apply through the Flame website. So, there's a Flame website, you make an account, and you start your application. If I can, I'll try and link it down below. But what I'm trying to say is all the things that get evaluated for every other college is the same as for Flame. Academic scores, entrance exams if you're giving the fiat, um, statement of purpose, and we'll talk about that a little later. Your extracurriculars, also we'll talk about that later, and interview process. So, of course, I would say, other than just taking my word for it, I would suggest explore the Flame website. And honestly, I think some of these tips also apply to just any colleges you're applying to. Explore the website itself because it really, really helps you just understand what you're getting yourself into, right? And when you know, it makes decision making 10 times easier. Okay, so make sure you check the deadlines and have proper structure in place to remind you of the deadlines, because that's something that I did and it really helped me figure out which application I was working on first, because I was also applying abroad, etc. But yeah, uh, yes, and I will talk about my experience and why I chose to do Flame instead of going abroad, etc. Because that's also a question I've gotten multiple times from everyone who watches my video. Okay, to summarize the process, it's basically you start with an application through the website. You get a fiat date, which is the Flame entrance exam that you have to give, or if you're submitting your SAT scores, then you're exempted from giving that exam. And then you have a personal interview after that, and you get your result. Now, this entire schedule and the admissions process is very clearly set on the website. So I would suggest please look through that. I want this video to be more about actionable tips about things that you can't find on a website, right? So I'm going to get into the second half of this video now. So for me, what stood out when I was applying to Flame, and I am not going to comment on the fact that a lot of people have asked me that, oh, Flame's a party school, Flame's this, Flame's that. And I just want to say that anywhere you go, there's going to be a set of people who do something, and there's going to be a set of people who do something else. Everyone's priorities are very different. When I was looking at college, the great thing I did was that I looked at it from a very objective point of view. I looked at it for me, and I saw whether or not this was the kind of experience I wanted. Because I wanted to move away from home. I wanted to live away from home. I wanted to also do a semester abroad if possible. I wanted to have that global exposure. I wanted to make sure that I had fun at college with all the extracurriculars, the lively campus. And I also wanted to be able to go out and, explore a city, a new city, right? I'm from like Indore and Mumbai. I've lived in Mumbai all my life, almost all my life. And I've never really explored or lived in another city. So I was like, you know what? I want college, the 4 years of college, to be transformational, to be the 4 years that I actually, it's really hard to live away from home. Don't get me wrong. But I really wanted to do it. Right? I think that also just comes from the fact that I'm an elder sibling, but that's a whole different thing. Yeah. So that's my personal experience. Mainly what stood out to me was the semester abroad, because I really wanted to do it, and just the structure of Flame itself. It gave me the space to do what I wanted to do at my own pace, but at the same time have like a liberal education. And I honestly wanted that for myself, and I'm glad I did that. 3 years, 3.5 years in, I'm so grateful that I'd made this decision, because there's no looking back. Now, coming to the SOP, I have some things to say about the SOP. A lot of the times, I get this question asked, which talks about, oh, how do I make my SOP so good that I get a scholarship? Or, how do I optimize my SOP to be able to be eligible for a merit scholarship? So, to give you context, at Flame, you can't apply for scholarships. It's a merit based scholarship. So, through your application itself, they assess if you get a scholarship or not. Um, I honestly don't talk about my merit scholarship a lot, but I was really grateful to have gotten an academic merit scholarship. Um, but the scholarship doesn't just come from academic rigor or academic achievements. From what I've understood, and this is my point of view, is that the SOP, the biggest mistake someone can make in an SOP is try to make it fit into a box. The whole idea of an SOP is to allow them to know you more than things that they've already asked you. So, your scores, your extracurriculars, etc. This is the portion which tells them if you're a good fit for them or not. See, a university looks at a candidate or a person applying to that university from the perspective of how do you fit in, or how do you kind of interplay with what they have as their vision, right? So don't underestimate what kind of passion like you could show in your SOP. I I mean, I could pull out my SOP, and maybe in another interview I can just maybe in another video I can read out my SOP. But I want people to understand that no one's SOP can, like, you can't get a structure in place, or you can't be like, okay, I have to write XYZ things to get a scholarship. When people who are reading your application, and they've done this for multiple people, they know which application sets them apart, right? So make sure you're keeping the um, application very authentic, you're keeping the application very you, because that's literally what it means: statement of purpose. Why do you want to go to Flame, and why does it make sense for you to be at Flame or at any other university? This is not just um, insights for Flame, this could also be applied to other universities as well. So yeah, highlight your extracurriculars, your leadership, and try to highlight your unique achievements from a place of that that you have something else to get to the table other than scores, other than extracurriculars. Because in this competitive landscape, everybody has like grades, everyone has, you're not competing against people who have the same grades as you. You're now competing against that one skill that they have that you may not. So what are your skills? What are things that are unique achievements for you, right? So be authentic, and also know what you're writing. Don't just write it for the sake of it. Put in the effort, put in the work. um I would never want to do applying to colleges again, because that time frame was just, it was crazy. Because you have to do so much of retrospection and everything. I still have to do it for masters at some point, but you get what I mean. Okay, so that's been my experience. Those are some of the real tips I'd give you. Keep it authentic, keep it real. Make sure you highlight your responsibilities, you highlight unique, you know, um, achievements that you've had in the past. I would also suggest highlight something that explains maybe, you know, a bad grade or a bad few years, not years, but like, say, for example, in 11th grade. For example, in 11th grade, you had really bad grades, and there's a reason for it. Highlight that. And show how you came out of it. Don't just place the problem and let them know that you dealt with the problem. um, Talk about how you were grateful for the experience, or talk about what happened and how it transformed you in a way. And it may not have been the best outcome, but it still brought about some sort of learning, right? Yeah, I'm gonna leave the experience and tips part at that. Let me know if you want me to kind of elaborate on more things, and maybe read out my SOP. I'll probably have to find it. I'm pretty sure I have it, but yeah, let me know if you want me to read that out. Okay, now coming to the third part, scholarship. So, like I mentioned earlier, a merit scholarship is something that you can't apply for. And the biggest thing with a merit scholarship is that they see you as a well rounded, holistic applicant. And, I could also be way off about this because a lot of the times you never know why they've given you a scholarship, right? And maybe I can try and see if I can sit down with my admissions counselor and talk about one of these things, right? So yeah, so be open, talk very authentically in those 250, 300, I think 250 words in your SOP. Emphasize on the whole person approach. See, you have to make sure that you're not just focusing on academics or on leadership or on social, because they want to see that you are someone who can handle multiple things. You are someone who's worked on multiple things and in multiple aspects of your life, right? So make sure you are highlighting that. Make sure you are putting that across because it could tip the scale in your benefit and give you a scholarship. Also, I would suggest if you want a scholarship, I think, and this applies to most colleges, try and apply in the first few cycles because most universities, I don't know about Flame, but most universities have a certain percentage of people they give 100% scholarship. Some certain percentage of the batch they give 75% scholarship, and etc. and etc. So that could also just tip the scales a little bit in your benefit. And it happens on different cycles, right? Your admission cycles are different. So I've not noticed, but I think this is how it works, that if you apply earlier, because I applied in the first cycle and I got 100% scholarship, so I'm assuming that that does work. Of course there's a bias here as well, but it never hurts to apply earlier if you could, even for like 2% chance, get a better chance at getting a scholarship, right? So yeah, apply for so this tip is for people who are applying for abroad or like other universities. A lot of places like abroad you can apply for external scholarships, you can apply for scholarships at the university as well. So please, please, please apply, because self-rejecting it makes no sense. You're not going to be able to get a yes if you don't even apply, you know so please, please do it, even if you feel like it's a stretch maybe. I hope it's not a long video. I'm going to try and keep it short with all the editing and everything. But closing thoughts: apply early and double check all requirements. Make sure your like application is foolproof and has everything that they've asked for and everything that you want to tell them about you, right? It's very difficult to do in 250 words, but it's also very important, and that's how they test. How do you tell them in 250 words that you're worth it, right? um if possible, talk to existing students, talk to alumni, try and get insights, watch my YouTube videos, figure out what life Flame has to offer, and figure out if that's what you want to do, figure out if that's the kind of experience you want, if you want to move away, etc., etc. Find your checklist. Don't follow someone else's. Be genuine. Authentic stories really make applications memorable because it sticks with your mind. If I read 20 applicants in the next hour and only two of them reach out to me or are memorable because they were authentic, I know who I'm going to pick, right? Believe in yourself. I mean, believe yourself. Just believe in your story, believe in the fact that you can do it and put your best foot forward. And when you don't have control over the outcome, focus on your input, focus on what you're doing and how well you can do it, and that's it. Call it quits after that. You don't need to worry about it. So yeah, I hope everyone found this video helpful. Please, 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 send your questions down below. I will try and answer them as soon as I can. And all the best for application season. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.